The Assembly will hear an address by Her Excellency Kolinda Gaber Kitorovic, President of the Republic of Croatia. I request protocol to escort Her Excellency. On behalf of the General Assembly, I have the honor to welcome to the United Nations Her Excellency Kolinda Gaber Kitorovic, President of the Republic of Croatia, and to invite her to address the Assembly. Madam President.
Mr. President, Your Excellencies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, we're gathered here on the eve of the 75th anniversary of the United Nations. Gatherings and anniversaries are usually a time of reflection and introspection. One such global occasion is the United Nations General Assembly. Here, the world meets, reflects, exchanges ideas, and sets its goals for the future. It is a forum unique in our human history. I believe that we must use the coming months and the 75th birthday of our organization in the year 2020 not only to emphasize its accomplishments in global relevance in peace and security, development, climate action, human rights, or humanitarian assistance, but also to take a bold leap forward and reiterate our commitments. However, time is of the essence. The Secretary General, Antonio Guterres, said last January, "The best-selling brand in our world today is indeed fear. It gets ratings. It wins votes. It generates clicks. Indeed, fear is present and inhibits us from taking that step in the right direction. It is hampering our potential and our creativity. We, gathered here, should lead by example. It is upon us to fearlessly use the instruments that we have at our disposal to advance our own nations and our own planet and to boldly think of new ones right now. It is upon us to address the greatest challenges of the globalized 21st century: climate change, sustainable development, migration, terrorism, weapons of mass destruction, and new technologies. So, how do we prevent unfavorable scenarios and harvest the benefits? How do we mobilize states and joint resources to respond adequately to emerging threats? We all know the answer, which is at the same time fairly simple and ever more difficult: by joining forces. We cannot deny that multilateralism is facing challenges. Reasons might be numerous and complex. However, it still remains our best chance of achieving our common goals. By standing alone and isolated, one fails. But many of us together, united around common ideas and working in good faith, have the tools in our hands to succeed. Let us use the existing mechanisms, transform them for the better, and make them more effective. No doubt reforms are necessary. We also need to take a deep look at our organization, its strengths and weaknesses, and trace the path of decades to come. In that vein, I emphasize Croatia's full support to the UN reform agenda and the Secretary General's continued efforts in this regard. We have to revitalize the UN and double our own efforts to make this building a home to true global leadership and platform for the promotion and development of the rules-based international order. The goals before us: poverty eradication, quality education, inclusion, and climate action cannot be achieved without individual, national efforts coupled with our common dedication and action. For its part, Croatia is doing its best to fulfill the goals that we have set for ourselves. First, we're combating poverty and social exclusion and reducing social inequality. Secondly, for us, quality education is key to long-term social stability and economic progress. Thirdly, as regards inclusion, the ultimate values of our constitutional order are freedom, parity, gender equality, and respect for human rights. And finally, Croatia is dedicated to fighting climate change by implementing innovative solutions that will transform our economy and our society. Croatia remains committed to the efficient fulfillment of its obligations under the Paris Agreement. Just as EU accession provided us with a blueprint for the transformation of governance, economy, and society, so does Croatia see the Sustainable Development Goals as a matrix for our future and an obligation to our citizens and the international community. We need to reinvigorate the political momentum and our starting enthusiasm for the Agenda 2030. For us, the 17 Sustainable Development Goals are guidelines for our own development and a framework for securing a better and a more sustainable future, both locally and globally. Together with other EU member states, Croatia strives to become a leader in sustainable development. Our focus is and will be on green Croatia and the balanced regional development and territorial cohesion of all our geographic areas, including the sustainable development of our more than 1,000 Adriatic islands. I have given more than one speech in this very podium. Together with you, I have raised many issues that trouble our nations and the world. Today, I want to focus on the environment, in particular on our seas and oceans. They are the essence and foundation of all life on Earth. Without them, we would not be here. Croatia is both a Central European and a Mediterranean country with great biodiversity. The number of known species in Croatia is around 40,000, including significant populations of many species that are threatened in Europe and in the world today. Besides our talented people, biodiversity is our greatest treasure. In that vein, Croatia pays particular attention to the environmental protection of the Adriatic Sea. We're focused on the preservation and facilitation of the marine and coastal environmental recovery, the protection of biodiversity, and the sustainable use of the sea and the coastal areas. Croatia's national ecological network covers 37% of our entire land area and 15% of our marine area. However, climate change and pollution threaten our natural resources, our delicate ecosystems, and our Adriatic Sea. We cannot neglect further the severe implications on our nature and the significant economic losses that we're facing in the future. Marine litter is a problem of increasing concern. It threatens marine life in the world's oceans and in the Adriatic Sea, having already impacted more than 700 marine species. Croatian coastal areas, one of the world's cleanest and most wondrous, are at times severely affected by poorly managed waste from our southern neighboring countries. The plastic pollution in our seas and oceans is one of the greatest threats that humanity is facing today. Without the preservation of our waters and our marine life, there will be nothing to leave to future generations. Each year, around 8 million tons of plastic end up in our oceans and our seas. Plastics are found throughout the marine environment, from the surface of the water down to the seafloor. We know that pollution has an annual financial negative impact measured in billions of dollars. These are only immediate costs of the plastic's impact on marine life, tourism, fisheries, and businesses. However, plastic pollution carries toxic pollutants into our own food chain. A recent study has revealed that in general, and on average, people could be ingesting approximately 5 grams of plastic every week, which is the equivalent weight of a credit card. What we throw into the sea today, we reap in our food tomorrow. The renowned Institute of Oceanography and Fisheries in Split has been monitoring the Adriatic Sea since 1930, and its scientific activity encompasses very complex research in the fields of biological, chemical, and physical oceanography, sedimentology, fisheries biology, and aquaculture. Over 100 scientists and experts are diligently working on the preservation of the sea as one of our greatest assets. One of their main projects involves the cooperation with fishermen. Plastics and litter from the seafloor found in their fishing nets is collected and disposed of. A number of fishing ships are involved in the project and have so far collected over 50 tons of waste. In the Croatian part of the Adriatic Sea, 97% of the waters on the beaches are of exceptional quality. This we do not take for granted, nor can we allow ourselves to do so. That is why more and more local communities organize beach cleaning actions. The local communities and volunteers encourage tourists to take part in those activities as well. From this spot, I encourage all, please do stop throwing waste into our oceans and rivers. Our own future is at stake. Last year, I spoke about the ocean cleanup, the first feasible method to rid the world's oceans of plastic and remove 50% of the Great Pacific Garbage Patch in just 5 years. The media has named it Pac-Man, referring to a popular video game. I spoke about the inventor of this method, the brilliant young Croatian scientist living in the Netherlands, Bojan Schlacht. But what we need is deeds, more deeds like that, and not just words. The clock is ticking. So today, instead of a lengthy speech, I want to use the remaining time to give real people a voice and emphasize, again, real actions which inspires further action. This is why I will tell you about Zlatin, one of the 1,246 Croatian islands. It is a small island inhabited by about 300 people. People with hearts and minds dedicated to the preservation of their environment and their home. Last year, young environmental enthusiasts gathered the entire local community to start an action called Take a Break from Plastic. The goal was to make Zlatin the first Adriatic island free of single-use plastic and plastic waste within a year. Their action was local, but their efforts are indeed global. Since I could not project any videos in this room, I kindly ask you to watch their short video and message on the web links provided in the written version of my speech. The video is, by the way, a subtitle in English, so you will be able to understand it. The people of Zlatin and supporters that you will see in the video had the vision and courage to transform their island community. Within just 1 year, the island has transformed. By signing a symbolic declaration, all residents, caterers, and merchants have disposed of disposable plastic from everyday use. Today, children of Zlatin educate hundreds of visiting tourists that plastic is not welcome on their island. And these children, they are our future, and they really deserve recognition for what they have been doing. In this chamber here, we're running out of excuses for not following the example of the people of Zlatin and not going and doing the same globally. Let us make all of our communities just as responsible as the people of Zlatin. Let us not hesitate and be discouraged by past or present failures, but rather provide strong leadership for our common success in the future. Fear is a time thief, and time is scarce. In the words of St. John Paul II, be not afraid. Thank you.
On behalf of the General Assembly, I wish to thank Her Excellency, the President of the Republic of Croatia, for the statement just made. May I request representatives to remain seated while we greet the head of state.